What is going on, you guys? My name is Matt, and I talk about Air Pokemon cards, which I believe are the coolest Pokemon cards because they are unique and special and fun, and let's get right into this week's episode. Kicking things off, we have a Haunter from Fossil Set. This got graded with PSA, got a PSA 8, and this is the blue stain error. Look to the right of Haunter there. You can see a blue ink smear that is pretty large, I should say, and goes out to the right side of the art box there. This is a repeating error, and it varies in the severity. Some are just a little bit of ink, some have big ink smears like this. I would say this is definitely one of the more severe, and it sold for $350 freaking dollars. Holy cow, that's pretty neat. You can see average non-error price is $44.24 for a grade 8. And so that gives us a 691% error value increase. That's pretty neat. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Oh. Okay. Usually I have a description for each error, but I messed up and I do not want to go back and fix each one of them. So, I'm just going to talk about each error like I always do. Let's get on to the next card. Next up, we have a PSA 9 Venonat, and this is a first edition Jungle Venonat, and this is the line error. You can see that there is a line on the left side of the card. It's right on the inside of the border there, so top left of the card. Look above me, you'll see a closer image. And this is a repeating error. It's an interesting one, and doesn't pop up too often. Probably only 3 or 4 times I've talked about it in the now 37 weeks I've been doing this show. So it kind of gives you an idea of how often it pops up, but really didn't help it sell for that much more. You can see we had a sale of $125. Here's another one that doesn't pop up too often, but I think this is the second week in a row I've talked about it. So this is a non-hollow Snorlax from Jungle Set, and this is the highlighter error. You can see it looks like there's a sun streak going across the bottom left part of Snorlax there. Kind of overpower over the P in Pokemon and into the art box a little bit. Another repeating error. I believe we have 3 repeating errors in a row, which is pretty neat. And this one sold for $75. Had an EVI of 974%, but that is not the top 10. We have a strong week this week. This is going to be a fun episode. I hope it is a fun episode already. Are you enjoying it? Let me know. Like and subscribe. Here. Look out. If I say subscribe, does the button highlight? Subscribe. Okay, good. 4 for 4 repeating errors. Here we have a Shadowless Ninetales, and this is the no damage Ninetales. So if you look at the error card and the non-error card, what's different between the two? There is no number 80. So under Fire Blast, that is missing on the card on the right, and so this no damage Shadowless Ninetales got graded a PSA 7. And sold for $880 in the auction this week. That is a lot of money. Wow. You can see we have average error price here for several grades, and for grade 7 typically goes to around $755. I'm inclined to believe that price turning is a little bit behind. I actually peeked recently at, so I signed into their website and saw that a lot of their information is actually behind. For some of them, it stopped pulling data like a year ago. So I might actually talk to them and see if they can get that updated. I think if I do enough on the site, I can actually add my own information to it and kind of make things correct. And if I'm being honest, I might just send them a playlist of 37 episodes and say, hey, here's my resume. Let me help you guys out because you need it. So average non-error price for this card is $69.50. And that gives us an 1166% EVI. Still not in the top 10 though. Boy. I put these cards in random order. It's basically the order that I find them in. And so that's why we've not seen any top 10 yet. If you're on a typical Pokemon card YouTube channel, they might do the top 10, 10 to 1. Not here. We're random, we're chaotic, and we're having fun. And we're still recording. Hell yeah. So next up we have a Q to base Fat Bottom Miscut. Here we have an Ekans from Fossil Set, and this has got that fat bottom. It's thick on the bottom, thin on the top. You can see an alignment dot on the bottom left corner, and you know I love vintage miscuts, especially the fat bottom ones. And this one sold for a lot. Like a lot. So it was listed for $149, and the best accepted offer price was $50. I've seen hollows and rares from older sets that have miscuts like this sell for less than this. That's a lot. So I think this is another example of price anchoring, where you anchor the price high like this seller did, sell it for $149, and then let's say someone bids and they're like, huh, I'm gonna ask for $100 less. That sounds like a hell of a deal. And then you look, and then sure enough they accept, and boom, you just sold this card that I'm guessing should probably sell for $25, $30 for $50. So not knocking anyone here. This is an awesome card. If you were able to purchase this, congrats to you. Also, I realized I think that's the Spanish version of Ekans there for the non-error card. You get the idea. It's not about the language. It's about the centering of the card. Sounds very prophetic. I like it. And ooh, with an error value increase of 4,487%. That's good enough for number 7 this week. Number 7. Average non-error price is $1.09. Next up, we have an Ancient Mew, a PSA 10 Ancient Mew. If you don't know, I like to track the prices of these. They sell frequent enough where you can kind of see what the actual price should be. And this is the one where I was in price charting and I looked to see when the most recent sale they recorded, and it was March 2023. So they are pretty far behind and they've missed a lot of sales. So I'm kind of taking over for price charting here. I'm telling you what's going on. So if you don't know, the Nintendo error is on the bottom of the card where it says Nintendo. It's missing the third N, and so it says Nintendo. This is a repeating error. Obviously kind of hard to see because of just the nature of this card, especially with how I'm showing it to you. Yeah, when I show the error card, it's never really zoomed in to see the N in Nintendo missing, but you just gotta trust me. Average non-error price is $465 for a PSA 10, so EVI is never crazy for this. And you can see price charting says average price is around $1,200. I've seen as low as $900, as high as $1,400 across the 37 weeks I've been doing this. So it's just kind of fun to see what these sell for, and you can see this one, yeah, $1,030. Next up, we have a Dugtrio, and this is an insufficient ink error. This is from my boy Infernos Games. Check out his YouTube channel if you get the chance, because he does a fantastic job going over a lot of cool error cards. I believe he actually highlighted this card. He did a recent submission to CGC, and this is one of the cards he got back. And obviously he sold it, and what a cool and unique card. If you watched last week's episode, Cousin Eddie was saying he wanted a little bit of that yellow, and don't get cheap on him. Well, this is a lot of yellow. Obviously, it's not yellow ink added, it's insufficient ink, which makes it look yellow. And so, a CGC 8.5 sold for $75. Average non-error price for a grade 8.5, around $8. So nothing too incredible, but an EVI of 837%. Not groundbreaking, but a pretty cool card to see, and I always love talking about unique Pokemon cards. Next up, we have an Evolution Box Wartortle. If you're unfamiliar, Wartortle is in the art box, but he's also in the stage, where that should be Squirtle. Why did I forget that? I don't know. So yeah, PSA 7, and obviously, like I said, this is a repeating error. And this one sold for $175. You can see outdated price charting has had the same price for a while too, $230. Hard to say if that is actually the market price or not. I don't think it is. I think the market price is deemed by the market and the prices that occur. And so I'm telling you the market price for this. Average non-error price is $18.51. So you'll see sometimes a raw Evolution Box Wartortle will be in the top 10. Sometimes I think it's even been number 1 on the list of EVI. But when you get it graded, both prices, the price goes up less for the Evolution Box error than it does for the standard one. And so they kind of get closer and closer, and so that EVI gets smaller and smaller. So EVI of 845%, not in top 10, but a cool card. And we might see this card again soon. in the past, I made graphics for every single card that I talked about, but now I just have them all on one big file size. And so if you want it, I'll send it to you. It's like 45 megabytes, and it's massive, but it has every single image that I talked about on here. I think that's pretty cool. Here we have another Nintendo error. This one's interesting. So the interesting part is they blurred out the PSA certification number. I believe PSA tracks the sale by looking at the images. I feel like actually sometimes that doesn't make sense. So I feel like PSA would actually look at the metadata of the sale and see that, oh, it was graded a PSA 10, and maybe have someone who verifies it, rather than just reading the scan of the image. So I don't feel like this does much. Maybe it does. I don't know. I don't know too much about that process, but just me thinking logically, that's what I would think. But yeah, so that's why they have the PSA cert number here rather than here, because they probably have an algorithm that looks for something similar like that image there. All right, enough talking, you nerd. This sold for $1,111, 40 bids. This was in auction. So an auction actually sold more than best accepted offer price, which is against what I say usually, but you have to do the best accepted offer price properly in order for that to win. You're doing a lot of talking, Matt. Get back to the cards. Oh, okay. Here is a PSA 10 Mewtwo that sold for $2,500. Just kidding. It's not a PSA 10. It's a PSA 4. Now, how did this sell for $2,500, a PSA 4? Well, look above me. Look at that. You see that? You see those words that got kind of jumbled about a little bit? This is very interesting. So this has happened on a few Mewtwo cards before. There are a few other examples where the text just gets really effed up. And it's weird. But they always sell for a lot, and it always seems like it's just on Mewtwo here. And obviously, it's rare enough where a PSA 4 sells for $2,500 freaking dollars. Wow. That's incredible. That is so much money for such a low grade. That's crazy. I don't know how many there are out here. If you look at the graphic to the whatever side that would be to me, it says repeating error. I said kinda, because there's other examples of this. I don't know how many. I'm guessing it's like less than 10 or something. So that's why this is so dang expensive. But yeah, very, very cool to see. And you can see the error value increase is pretty darn high. 9,519%. Average non-error price $26. So that 9,519% is good enough for number 3 this week. Dang. That's a lot. This beats a Black Label 10. A BGS 10 sells for $1,800 for a non-error card like this. Except this one's not as exciting. Just kidding. Fat bottom miscut. Here we have a Fossil Gengar with a fat bottom. This got graded a PSA 3 and sold for $113.50. This is Propstein Auctions. They actually sold a lot of cards this week, a lot of miscuts. So be looking for that. EVI 400%. It's pretty cool. I love the fat bottom miscut. Bottom left corner in the back of the card, pretty dinged up. Take a look at that. It's probably why I got a PSA 3, but we love it regardless. Yes, we do. Did I look at the camera once, that whole card? I don't know. Okay, next up we have a Colossal V. And this is a skewed miscut, a wonky miscut, a twisted miscut. It's not like this. It's like this. And it sold for $90 this week. So a CGC 7. Look at that. This is where it's fun to compare the non-error to the error, just to see how twisted that really is. Pretty neat. $90. EVI 1400%, but as I said, this is a strong ass week, and so not in the top 10. Next up, we have a first edition Butterfree from Jungle Set. This is a PSA 10, and this is the D error. There is the most perfectly placed printer hickey ever that got placed on the 1, the lower part of the 1 on first edition. It makes it look like a D. This is a repeating error. Always a cool one to see. It doesn't sell for a crazy amount, but in a PSA 10, it sells for a good bit more. $370. You can see average non-error price for a PSA 10 first edition Butterfree from Jungle Set, $162.84. And so EVI is nothing crazy, 127%. And this one actually sold for a decent bit more than what price charting is saying, but as I've said, that's not really too surprising because price charting is wrong a lot. I'm gonna correct that though. I'm gonna talk to them. I'm not gonna be a Karen about it, but I'm definitely gonna be a middle-aged man and go and talk to them and see if we can get this corrected. That's right. Hey, look! Evolution Box War Turtle, raw, sold for $165. Now, you wouldn't believe it. Well, you could believe it. This card's in great shape, and when you see cards like this that are raw, that have a history of selling for more at higher grades, it's fun to look at it and think like an investor, like the person who was purchasing this card. So, obviously, $165 seems like a lot for this card, but I didn't show the back of the card, but this card's in pretty darn good shape. I'm not a grading expert, but I would guess PSA 8 at least. Like, it's in really good shape. And so I'm sure if you polish it up, clean it up a little bit, it could get even a 9. And you can see error price for this grade 9 sells for $400. So this could be thought as an investment. So someone seeing this card could be like, oh, you know, that is actually in very good shape. I would love to get this graded, sell it, or keep it yourself. So it could be a great deal, especially in the context of grading. And this is where that EVI is high, high, high. So sold for $165, average non-error price $2.31. That gives us an error value increase of 7,043%. That's number 5 this week. That's pretty crazy. That's actually nuts. Jeez. Speaking of nuts, look at this miscut. It sold for $15.50. I wouldn't kill. I would do something mildly unpleasant to be able to have won this auction for $15.50. That is so cool. This is damn near a like 50% miscut. So I think they called the card I guess they didn't call the card anything. So we could say this is a TV13 Topps card because that is showing more than the Weedle there. But man, how cool. Like I feel like sometimes Topps cards don't get the love they deserve, because if this was like any standard Pokemon card, this would go for like hundreds of dollars, if not maybe $1,000. But for some reason, because it's Topps, there's just no love there. So yeah, back of the card you can see a little bit more of that's Weedle, right? Yeah, it's not Metapod, that's Weedle. Come on, and we got a little bit of a blank space there. This could be more thought of like the edge of sheet miscut, I would imagine, right? Like you see on some regular Pokemon cards that are miscut. So you think that would add something to it, but it's just yeah, it doesn't really show too much there. So yeah, typically goes for around $1.69. So EVI of 817%, and I really do think this is like the steal of the week here. This is pretty crazy. PSA 10 Nintendo error, $1,200. Next card. So this is one I did a little bit of reflecting on when I saw it. So if you're keeping track of modern error cards at all, you may have seen this one pop up. So this is the Ink Splash iCarp error, where there's a large printer hickey that is covering up the first part of Magikarp in the name in the top left part of the card. And it's a repeating error, and it's very cool. I'm still kind of kicking myself. I saw one that was selling at auction. Someone didn't know it was an error, and it was being shipped from overseas, I think in the UK, and the winning bid was like $3 or $4, but shipping was like $20, and I was like, I don't want to pay $20 for shipping, and so I didn't get it, and I really wish I would have, because this is like the modern equivalent of like a D-dot offending error. It's something where it really is, it's adding a lot of value to the card right now, and who's to say how rare and valuable this is going to be in like 20 years. You know, it's cool to think like if people were doing a show like I was doing back then, people could talk about the errors as they come out, and like you can see each error's kind of form and everything, and it gains more and more traction. That'd be really cool. So we're seeing a little bit of history here, I believe, and yeah, this one sold for $100. Average non-error price is 96 cents because this is just a 2023 standard Pokemon card without the error. That gives us a 10,317% air value increase. And that's good enough for number 2 this week. Number 2. So, insanely cool card. I want one. But kind of my mantra is, if I can't get it for the crazy good deal, I'm not going to get it. So either, someone's selling it in an auction and I win it for a pretty good price, or someone doesn't know it's an error and I snag it up, because that's kind of my thing. Balling on a budget. You would need a pretty big budget for this one. Here we have a PSA 5 base set Charizard, and this is an incomplete holo error. So there's no stars in that holo. It's just kind of some mirror finish. And I gotta say, it's so hard to tell sometimes. So obviously it's a lot more clear when PSA tells you it's an incomplete holo error. But there are so many cards that just get taken with a perfect top-down angle, and it doesn't show any of the stars at all. And so it's really hard to tell. Sometimes there are some that I think would be an incomplete holo error, and it's never turned out to be. I asked the seller, hey, can you send me another photo? And they send it, and it turns out not to be. And I go, oh yeah, thank you so much, and I don't buy it. I'm not a mean person, I just want more information. So, yeah, these ones are rare, like very rare, and I think this probably should have sold for more just because this was sold in auction, and it sold, there's only 2 bids on it. So that just leads me to believe that this could have sold for more. But you know what? You get the sale done quicker if you sell it in an auction, so I get it. And $660 is a lot. You can see this has an EVI of 190%, and yeah, what a cool card, especially, this is like the most iconic card ever, so to see it somewhat, you can call it repeating error. I guess I don't really consider it a repeating error, but a known error like this on a classic is pretty cool. Alright, you're going to see my live attempt to try to say this. Hippopotas. That's probably right. I don't know. Roast me in the comments if it's not. Here we have a Hippopotas with a crimp and cut error. A cut and crimp error. Essentially, the crimping machine that closes the packs, that closes the plastic around the packs, sometimes that can get misaligned. And so what it will do is essentially it can crimp cards, but if it's severe enough, it can cut and crimp cards. And I've talked to people before who have pulled cards like this, and sometimes that little top part ends up in the pack, the same pack as the bottom part of the card, and sometimes it ends up in a different pack. So it's hard to say, but what a cool error. Obviously something went wrong, in that final process before they get the cards shipped out of the factory. And so very cool to see, and yeah, that's a clean cut, and you got a couple crimps there. Look above me, you can see the back of the card there. This sold for $40 this week, so not bad at all for a modern Pokemon card. EVI is 5,232%, and that's good enough for number 6 this week. Here's one I'm not going to lie, I meant to talk about last week, and then I just forgot. I had it like on my list, and for some reason I just didn't talk about it. So here we have a Jigglypuff from Jungle Set, and this is the blue oval ink error. I'm not sure if that's the exact right name for it, but essentially what it is it would be, is that a water obstruction right on the edge of the branch there? And this is a repeating error. I thought this would sell for more. Maybe this British seller just needed the money quicker. I don't know. I'm not here to judge. And I really, this is honestly the first sale I've seen. So that just led me to believe that it's rare. And so I thought it should sell for more. But yeah, this sold for $19.12 once you do that conversion. And the EVI is 1,493%. And here's the other card I forgot to talk about. And I was punching the ceiling, not really, punching the air. I was so mad I forgot to talk about this because Venusaur is my favorite card. Venusaur is my favorite Pokemon, I should say. And I love the base set Venusaur card, and this is one of the only repeating errors that is out there for Venusaur. Also, that other one I just talked about, I believe it's insufficient ink that causes that, because that's what CGC says for this, and it's like the same highlighter error. So, yeah, as I said, CGC 9 base set Venusaur with an insufficient ink error. Now, this one, I say it's repeating. I don't believe it's in the same spot every time, but it's known that base set Venusaur has these little light ovals of blue on it on the card. And so that's close enough for me. I might be playing favorites here, but yeah, so I'm calling this a repeating error. It's a very neat one. And this one sold for $300. For a grade 9, that's not bad at all. You see EVI is only 7%. I feel like this should have sold for more. I don't know. You know, sometimes, again, someone offers you something and you're like, you know what, $300, I'll take that right now, instead of holding out for like $350 or $400. So I think this is a good price for this card. And yeah, I'm glad I got to sneak this in this episode. D.defending. D.efending. Here we have a PSA 5 D.efending error. One of the errors that PSA recognizes, always fun to see. And if you don't know, under Poison Sting, the D has a period after it in defending. This is a repeating error. It always sells for a lot. And wouldn't you know it, PSA actually sold this card. So I'm guessing they do a consignment as well. And my personal humble opinion thinks that this card should have sold for more. $158.19. Doesn't seem like that much, especially for this card. This one's rare. You'll see like crappy versions of this raw sell for $200 pretty easily. So I think whoever purchased this got a steal. You can see the EVI was still very high though, because the average non-error price for this is $7 for a grade 5. So EVI is 2160%, and that's good enough for number 9 this week. By the way, I reach out to every seller after each episode, and I have tried reaching out to PSA, and they never responded. I was hoping it'd be just some intern, you know, and they could like check out my videos or something, but the intern never responded, if that's who's running that. Oh well. Next up, we have a Mewtwo V, and this is from, what says this from? Pokemon Go, and this is an ultra rare, and this is a foil shift error. A very, very, very cool foil shift error. I feel like all of them are cool, but this one's like ultra cool. So, if it's not really apparent to you, look above me first, look at Mewtwo. You can see the foil shifted down about a centimeter. Just about. That's so cool. So, you know, the more you stare at the card on the right, the more you can see different parts of the air kind of coming through. And yeah, that's a really, really neat one. And this one sold for $240 in auction. Typically it goes for around $2.75, nothing crazy. And so the EVI on this, 8,609%. That's a neat one. That's a high percentage. That's number 4 this week. Snappity snap snap. Okay, here's another Topps error that I feel like did not get the love it deserved. So this is sometimes, again, the issue with selling in auction. I feel like it just doesn't sell for as much as it should. This card's, I'd say 50-50 on which card it actually is. CGC decided to call it Playtime, so that would be the Pikachu there. And it's so cool. It's like, it's framed Pikachu, which, you know, that's like people's favorite Pokemon. It's framed that part of it and then cut to the other one. And bless my soul, I forget which one that is, what card that is on the top there. Either way, this is an insanely cool error card. Again, cut right down the middle. If this was any other card, it would be thousands. But it's not. And so it sold for $65 this week. EVI of 593%. That should be like a 59,000%. Maybe not for Topps, but for a different card it might be. All right, we got a couple crazy miscuts coming up here. Like this one. Here we have a Mewtwo GX from Shining Legends, and this is a pretty severe skewed miscut. You can see that bottom left. You can see that bottom right portion of the card. It's got a lot of hollow border there. The top, a little bit less. Printer hickey, and then kind of goes to a point there on the left, and you can just see something got really effed up in the printing process here. Especially on the back too, we got an edge of sheet miscut, so you can see the white border on the left side there. Pretty darn neat, and this sold for $336. Wow. CGC 8. And the EVI of 2,092%. I think that's number 11 this week, so I ain't snapping my fingers for that, but what a cool card. but statistically we have cooler cards. I don't know if EVI means it's a cooler card, but here's another one. Here's the one that edged it out. So here we have an Entei GX. It looks like a same exact pack that it came from. It's from Shining Legends as well. So same sheet, and I'm guessing from the same seller because these both got sold with these consignment shop. And yeah, just another really cool one. This one, I don't know what Pokemon that is there. That's not Mewtwo next to it, is it? I don't know. I see a rock in the bottom right there, so that's leading me to believe. If you know more about Pokemon, which is 99.9% of you, let me know in the comments what card is that on the right. So yeah, $332 for this one. Not an edge of sheet miscut, but actually sold for $4 less. But this card is worth, the non-error card is worth less too, which means the error value increase is higher, which means 2,113% is good enough for number 10 this week. You keeping up? I hope you are. Oop. There's the top card. I'm skipping that. Next up, we have a PSA 8 Ghost Stamp Pikachu. So this is a first edition Pikachu that has a repeating error where essentially the 1 and the D in first edition are removed and the rest of the card is very gray. The rest of the stamp is very gray. I'm still beaming over my pickup. I got this for $12. I think it's, again, one of the cooler things I've done for Pokemon in the Pokemon space. So if I ever get a chance to talk about that, I'm going to, gosh darn it. And average non-error price for this card, $146. So you gotta think this is a first edition Pikachu. This was the first English Pikachu to come out in first edition. So it's a damn expensive card in the non-error version too. But this error version adds 439% of value to the card. So yeah, $787.77. That's pretty neat. It'd be even neater if it ended in 22 cents. Get on that, folks. And yeah, that's it. Next card. Next up, I think we have the coolest name for an error Pokemon card, a repeating error card. Stainmonlee. So this is a cigar stain, or the yellow ink stain, first edition Hitmonlee from Fossil set. And I think PSA should just put Stainmonlee on there. Come on. Yes, PSA 7, and this is such a cool one. So this is a repeating error, ranges in severity like some of these other ones, and most severe go all the way down to high jump kick, I believe, and go up to Hitmonlee's foot. And it's like a very thick yellow stamp, and it gets less and less with each sheet it got printed on, and some are just a little bit of yellow. But this one is, I would say, ranging on the more severe side, but not all the way there. So this sold for $440 and an EVI of 817%, which I think is pretty good for a PSA 7 Pokemon card. Especially a vintage one. Next up, we have an Energy Retrieval card. This is the trainer card, and it's sold for $55. How's that happen? Well, look at the back of the card. That's how it happened. Inverted, miscut, edge of sheet. This is probably one of the cooler inverted backs I've seen, just because it is so clean, where like you have the edge of sheet on the top, then you have that thick blue border on the almost top and on the left side, and then you have just like a clean no border on the bottom and the right. That's pretty neat. Look at that. Sold for $55. Man. Average non-error price is $1.26, which I don't think anyone is surprised by. No one wants an Energy Retrieval unless you're trying to finish a set. Unless you play the Pokemon game. I don't. So if it is a valuable card in that, I apologize. Error value increase, 4,265%, which is good enough for number 8 this week. Here's one I've seen one other time. It was like week 3 when I was doing this these videos before. It was where I was a lot more nervous. The video quality was a lot lower. I didn't put nearly as much effort into this. A different era, really. But this is a Shadowless Vulpix, which, God bless Shadowless Vulpix. I feel like this is the one where all the errors occur. And this one is called the Pooh error. They call it an obstruction misprint. No, this is the Pooh error, and that's why I called it, or that's why I saw it called the first time, and that name stuck with me. It's a large ink blob near the ground, near the backside of Vulpix, which makes it look like Pooh. And also, is that a printer hickey above Vulpix's, if we're looking at them right ear, right above, it's like the middle of the art box on the top there. Is that a printer hickey? It looks like it. So yes, this leads me to believe this might be a repeating error. There could only be like 3 of these in the world, so technically it's repeating, but you know, if you get a printer hickey on a card, most likely it's repeating at least one other time. So I don't know how many there are out there, but even if this wasn't a repeating printer hickey, this is large enough where that would justify it. That would justify the price for this. So $54.37 for this card is pretty good. It gives us an EVI of around 1300%. And you know that's not top 10. Second to last card. Here we have a first edition Raichu from Fossil Set, and this is the Mirror Hollow error. As PSA likes to call it, it's incomplete hollow error. Call it whatever you want. And this sold for way less than it should have. I'm sorry to say that. I always feel bad when I say that, but in a PSA 9, this sold for $700. Now, if we step back and just do a meta view of it, $700 for a Pokemon card, insane. But if you look at a PSA 9 that sold back in August, that sold for, maybe not. Okay, never mind. So the infographic above there, I hope you can read that. I'm trying a different thing here, but it said one sold for $1,000 before. I thought that was higher. Maybe it says 1,900. I can't read it properly. But either way, this is a very cool card. Sold for a lot, and it's kind of night and day difference you can see between the error and the non-error. I think these mirror hollows are very unique and very cool. So $700 ain't that bad for this card, actually. I rescind my statement. Alright, here we have a very, very unique card. So here we have a CGC 7.5 Groudon. This is a Team Magma's Groudon, and this was from the Pokemon Celebrations, the Classic Collection, so back in 2021, and this is a fold over error. This is so cool because, you know, this kind of has a unique hollow pattern here in the art box, and with this, I don't know what the heck happened in the printing process, but the foil layer got folded over when it got printed, and so it kind of shows a little bit of behind the scenes of what this foil actually looks like. And so you got like just the standard white of the card on the bottom left there, then you got the foil layer, and then you got the rest of the card, and then the back just looks like a standard Pokemon card. How cool is that? Wow. And you know what? That was freaking reflected in the price here. $838 for what is essentially a pretty worthless card, modern card in the non-error version. Average non-error price, $6 for a grade 7.5. This one sold for $838. That gives us an EVI of 13,867%. And obviously good enough for number 1 this week. That's a neat one. How cool. Alrighty, thank you for watching. If you made it to the end here, I love you. Thank you so much. Make sure to tune in next week because I got a cool surprise that I'm going to be doing for the video. Very unique. I may be traveling somewhere, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you later. Goodbye.